Okay, so we're finishing ethics today, and we've been looking at some different things, right? We had the bow and arrow article, which a lot of you had some really good responses to. We're talking about the veterinary oath, where a vet's responsibility is what? Do what's best for the patient. We had that talk about like ending suffering somehow, whether that's a surgery or medication or maybe even euthanasia. So what we're going to do today is sometimes a little difficult to watch, but we're going to watch some videos on some things that are going to happen in vet clinics that you may work at. So the list here includes tail docking and dew claw removal, which is where we have a puppy that is 3 to 5 days old, and we bring it into the vet clinic with the mom. We take the puppy away from the mom for 5 minutes tops, and we remove their dew claw, which you guys have cut nails before. That would just be this nail right here, okay? Now the reason that they do that is because a lot of times if you picture a crazy dog like Rocky ripping and roaring through the woods, a lot of times they get that caught and they rip it, and it's not a difficult surgery, but it's bloody and long, and there's a high risk of infection. So it's kind of a preventative measure, is to take that off before anything bad happens to it. Now, on the other side of that, if you have a dog like Rocky or a lab who's going to retrieve things, even a border collie who's herding sheep, there's this debate that when the animal, it puts its paw down, that it kind of uses that thumb, if you will, to grip. And so now they're wondering if we're taking that ability away from them. And when those, like, let's say this border collie that's competing in agility and jumping the jumps and going through tunnels and, you know, twisting and turning, they're seeing that since they don't have this kind of mechanism to stop them from turning that paw, that they're getting more arthritis in this joint. So this one is a little bit, I'm not really sure about that, right? Along with the dew claw removal, a lot of breeds dock their tails. So they shorten their tails. They do this at the same time. If you have a boxer or a German short-haired pointer or a Rottweiler, all of those breeds are traced back to their history where they were guard dogs, fighting dogs, and they would get their tail bit, and so it's easier just to cut their tail off so you didn't have to worry about that. So that goes back to AKC, the breed standard. That's what they should look like in the ring. But then, you know, your tail is used for balance, right? So if you don't have a situation like poor Rocky that he bangs his tail open, is it really ethical to remove the tail for now appearance? It's not like you breed Rottweilers to fight them, hopefully, right? It's not like you breed, I don't know, you don't have that same reason that we had long ago. Yep.
Is it like, weren't the most one that like didn't?
Yeah, Pembroke don't have a tail. Now some breeds are born without a tail.
So like it just like happened whenever they were first?
Yeah, it was like genetically, like a Manx cat that doesn't have a tail. Some breeds are born without a tail. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But like Rotties, German Shorthaired, a lot of those are docked.
Right.
Docked or put.
Like the way they look.
Right. Okay, another one is declawing. So these are our cats. So you know cats have two bad things going for them. They could either scratch your furniture and ruin your carpet or ruin your curtains, right? So you have to think of, well, if we say that declawing is unethical and we don't do that, how many cats are going to lose their homes and be put in the shelter where you already have way too many cats, right? The other thing for declawing cats is behavioral, scratching. Maybe they're a little bit aggressive, and the ones that like reach out from under the couch and grab your leg type thing. So again, if you don't do it, what's going to happen to those cats? So this one is a big ethical debate. Some states like California, they have made this illegal. You're not allowed to declaw your cats. The reason for that is they find that if you do not do it properly, okay, I'm going to show you a video on properly doing it. A lot of times they can develop arthritis. If you don't do it exactly right, they can have pain. And then they end up not wanting to, how they scrape the litter box? They don't like that feeling because it's uncomfortable. And so they start peeing in your house. Okay? So lots of debates there. There's also debate on how to do it. So I'll tell you my favorite method once we watch this video. There's 2 methods that I would never, ever, ever say is ethical to do for a declaw. Ear cropping. You know what that is? Taking their pinna off, their ear flap off. So that would be like pit bulls, Great Danes, Schnauzers. All right, so this is done when they're older. They are put under anesthesia, so they cannot feel it at all. But I'm going to walk you through that one. This is the same thing. This is for going back in the old days, fighting, guarding, that kind of thing.
Is that when they like put the things on their ears and make them stand up?
Yep.
Yeah, I do that a lot with Dobermans.
Yes, Dobermans are another one. Yep, good job. All right, now, these videos, while they're not that graphic, a lot of times students feel a little, I don't know, maybe emotional and upset about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit on the floor, have a little floor time party, and I'm going to show you these videos. And then we'll have time for a question and answer, like after each video. We'll take a pause and reflect on it a little bit. The last one is convenience euthanasia. What does it mean if something's convenient? It's like easy. So here we're euthanizing a pet because it's easier. All right, so imagine like the old dog that's kind of a little bit of a pain to take care of, and you have your vet euthanize it. Was it really ethical? Because it was for your convenience. Or some are more kind of debatable than that even. Oh, I'm going on vacation. I don't have anyone to watch my dog. Can you euthanize it?
That actually happens.
Yeah. But if you have a vet that kind of stands up for him or herself, they would say no. Okay. All right, so go ahead and pop a squat. While you pop a squat, I'm just going to tell you that part of this lecture is that I'm going to have you work on an essay. It doesn't have to be anything like real formal or crazy, but it's basically reflecting on each of these, okay? So you're going to decide, do you think it's ethical or not? How would you handle that situation if part of your job was to help with this? Maybe holding them for the procedure, scrubbing them for the procedure, even scheduling it. How could you address this with the veterinarian? So if you were like, oh, I think declawing is unethical, I'm going to talk to my veterinarian, what are you going to say? So kind of like, how are you going to politely argue that you don't think this is right? And the last one, how difficult would it be to remain professional with a client who requests these procedures? Okay? So, we'll have like one paragraph for each of those. Let me just show you where you can find that. I think it was just in front of me. There it is. Okay. If you go to ethics, because we're talking about ethics, there's the convenience euthanasia article. So I'm not showing you a picture of euthanasia. And here is, these are the questions. Okay. And then if you're at home and you're having trouble seeing these videos, if they're kind of fuzzy or you can't hear them well, you can click on this PowerPoint and the links are there. Okay, so let's watch declawing first. So we are removing the first digit of our cat's nails. Ooh, that's gonna be really loud.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stram from Oak Grove Pet Clinic, and I just wanted to discuss feline decline with you. I just wanted to discuss the different options you have.
Okay.
There's several different methods for declawing cats. There's a method called the Resco technique, which basically the animal is anesthetized and a Resco nail trimmer is used to chop the nail off of the paw.
Those are the clippers that I showed you, right? I said I don't really like them.
You said they were called like the
Guillotine, yep, or Resco. Resco is like the trade name, yeah. So you see I was kind of struggling to cut. Does that look very...
This is a guillotine type nail trimmer, and in my opinion, it is a crude way to declaw an animal. It makes a good sized hole, and although it's sharp, it's not as sharp as it should be, and it does probably a good deal of tearing and not enough of a cutting motion. Plus the holes, like I said, the holes that it creates are very big, and it takes a bit longer for the animal to heal. And if you're not really, really good at that technique, the animals can be in a lot of pain afterwards, and you can actually leave a piece of the bone behind because it's not as accurate as you're not able to see the bone as you do the chopping. A second technique that is used is a laser that people will use to cut the claw, and you've got to be fairly skilled to be able to remove the claw with that laser. What I don't like about it is the laser seals the edge of the skin by burning it.
It does cut, and you can see it does make that cut, and it does it by vaporizing.
A laser costs $45,000, and it gives us that 45,000 reasons to declaw cats, but it is no less painful. And there's 2 articles in the veterinary literature. One says it's just as painful as the blade. Second one says it's more painful because of 4th degree burns. 4th degree burns means burning bone.
We use this instead of a scalpel blade. We do have to clean out what's called the char or the burn area. We do put a bandage on in order to help with the bleed, with any bleeding that might occur. The pets do stay overnight, but again, there's less bleeding, and the laser also sees more getting, so there's less pain.
We have found that many hospitals charge a base price for standard declawing, and if the client would like to have their pet declawed by a laser, there's an upcharge for that, and in many cases that is a substantial upcharge.
And it does seal it so the edges don't bleed, but by burning the edge of the skin around that toe, it also delays the healing of the declaw site, and I believe that it probably isn't as good a method as just using a scalpel, which is the third method that is used, is a scalpel dissection.
This is the one that I would recommend. So yeah, they just cut those two ligaments.
That's the method I like to use. The animal's anesthetized. We put a tourniquet on each limb, the limb we're going to declaw, and I use a scalpel just to make an incision in the skin, and I retract the skin back and cut the 4 teeny little ligaments that hold the claw on, and then the claw is just removed after that. We don't use any sutures or any glue because it's a fresh edge. It heals rapidly to the other edge, a lot quicker than you'd expect for the laser, and the animals are usually up and walking fairly well the next day. We do keep them in the hospital a couple of days just so they're not too active and break any incisions open.
So this is talking about the chronic pain that's possible. But again, if you use that scalpel blade method versus the guillotine / Resco and versus a laser, I mean, both of my, well, I only have one now, but my cat is declawed and he's just fine. But they use the scalpel blade method. I gave lots of pain meds. So I'm kind of on the boat that as long as you do it right, as long as you give lots of pain meds, I think it's okay. If you do those other 2 methods, I don't agree with it.
So, well, like they tell you, like right before, if like what method you're gonna use?
I would ask when you schedule it. Some vets around here do the laser. Our vet didn't do that. We did scalpel blade. Okay. This one is probably the most upsetting, but what I want you to see is when they cut the dew claw off and when they cut the tail off, look at the response of the puppies, okay? So you can actually hear them screaming because you're holding them, because they've never been held. They're only 3 days old. They don't want to be restrained like that. And then see when they do this, how much longer do they cry after, right? So something to look for as we watch this one.
Wait, was decalling like all of the nails?
No, you only do the front.
Oh.
Very rare in this breed.
The only time you do the back is if there's a medical reason for the owner. Like if they're diabetic, you know, those wounds are really slow to heal. Sometimes the cats jump off their lap and accidentally scratch them with the back nails. But that is where they bear their weight, and so it's very not nice.
Right.
Okay.
Now,
That's a good
what
question.
about, like, I know some people put caps on them.
Yeah,
Is that
there's an
okay too?
alternative. So yeah, maybe your argument is, I think this is ethical if I have already tried the nail caps. I've already tried training them to use a scratching post. I've already tried keeping their nails nice and short by cutting them myself. Maybe that's your standpoint. It's a good question.
So my cat, she likes doorways. That is her thing, is doorways. Tries them nuts.
Yeah. All right.
But I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
I think I've only heard of food once.
So they're just making sure
Never
it's
in my life.
okay before they start. You can see they're real tiny,
Are they
right?
dog friendly?
Never stuck.
I think Cumberland's.
You know, I have a friend who has 3 French bulldogs, and she's had a real problem in that breed.
Okay, Becky.
Yeah, that's just.
So they're taking the dew claw
Or
off.
sometimes some breeds shows up a little more than others, but never know when you're going to get a random one.
See, there's not much blood
Like
at all,
I
right?
think I mean,
And like
not that
they
I've
don't
seen
even.
much as
She's
many
done
puppies
with
as
that
you
one.
have.
They don't even
But
need to
of all the
recheck.
pups I've seen, I think I've only seen
Like they're not going to get an infection. They can't even move.
So really not that common of a thing.
there's no suture removal. Nothing.
So what do they do? Do they like rip it out or what?
They cut it with those tiny little scissors.
You're gonna prove my theory wrong that this doesn't hurt as much, right?
So they have to make sure they get all of the nail and it's this right here on you. We need to make sure they get all of that because it can actually kind of try to regrow back. Now the tail, there's a couple different techniques for that. You can either cut it or you can twist it. I would say cutting it would be nicer if you want to kind of go into that a little bit.
How do they do it?
Now here, I think this one twists it. So she's counting the vertebrae because there's only a certain, like some have to be longer, some have to be shorter. So you see there's no anesthesia. He feels all of it. But the thing that they say 3 to 5 days is they don't have quite as developed like nerve endings, right? So like if you tried that on Rocky, obviously he would kill you. But on them, look, he's not even.
Oh, there we go.
Right? Now she's just putting a suture in, but you don't even have to take that out.
Yeah, somehow the numbers outnumber the labs. Unusual.
Ah, that is unusual.
And they didn't have tails.
They didn't have tails.
They didn't have tails, but.
So you see he's not even
I know, I was
making
thinking that
noise
before
now.
too, I was like, oh, I didn't.
Okay, now, there it is, cumbersome. Now, the thing about this is, if you ever try to like Google this, because you're like, you know what, I want to see this again and see if I think this is ethical or not. There are owners / irresponsible breeders that do this themselves at home. Now, would that be ethical? Obviously not, right? Now, even more sad is I'm about to show you ear crops. Some owners do that at home. That would be even more unethical, right? So when we talk about this, we're talking about clean environment, knowledge on how to do it, how to take care of it. So just keep that in mind. Now this is not a video, it's just pictures, because I don't really want you to pass out. But I'm just going to kind of talk as we go through it. So these are just pictures. So he's going to go under anesthesia. There you go. See how they tape them up to keep them straight up?
What breeds did you say had this done?
Boxers, Great Danes, Dobermans, Pit Bulls, Schnauzers.
So don't like French bulldogs use theirs to go? Is that natural?
French Bulldog, yeah, those are natural. Yeah. You see the sutures? There's another Pit Bull.
So what is like behind this? Is it like what makes it good, or what is it used for?
Looks,
That's
period.
It. That's just
Yeah.
looks. Okay.
Show dogs. But nowadays, the AKC shows are being more lenient if you choose not to do their ears and or tail. It used to be like, you're not even gonna be given the time of day to try to win, but that's changing. Okay, so as I walk you through these pictures, you can see they're under anesthesia. They can't feel anything at all. They're obviously gonna be given lots of pain meds. The thing that is scary for me about this, other than the fact that you're cutting their ears off, is when you cut their pinna, or ear flap, you actually are cutting a nerve that triggers you to breathe. So sometimes it's a little bit risky. You have to be on your A game if you're the technician monitoring the anesthesia, because they will forget to breathe because you cut that nerve ending. Once you kind of get them breathe, they're fine. But if you were to miss that.
Now, are they more prone to like ear infections with their ears up like that?
That's a great question. If you want to look at a positive of this, they have less ear infections because of the airflow. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome y'all to Royal Kennels.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I would not recommend YouTubing that because there's some graphic stuff on there. Okay, so what questions do you have on any of them?
But was declawing under euthanasia? Or not euthanasia? Oh my gosh, anesthesia.
Declawing the cats?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Lots of pain meds to go home.
The only one that is done is the tail docking and declaw removal, right?
And declaw, yeah.
Is that because they're so small when they do it?
They're so small, it's so fast. You could see that they stop, you know, it's like pain right when they did that, but then they were done. They argue that their nerve endings aren't quite the same, but ethically, if you are gonna choose to do that one, you cannot do more than 5 days. That's when they start really feeling it and moving around more. And
so is like declawing the dogs, is that like for more practical reasons?
The declaw on the dog is if they ever rip that running through, it's a pain in the butt surgery.
Would it hurt them more than like being more or would it
older?
Just, no, like, would it be like hurtful for the dog more of an inconvenience, or are they just worried about like surgery itself?
It's very painful because the bone starts to form. Then when they cut it off the puppies, it's not fused yet. Just like babies, infants their bones aren't fused yet.
Yeah.
So it's much easier, much less painful as a puppy. If Rocky were to tear one, you're looking at an hour-long surgery, e-collar, high chance of infection just because of where it's at, you know, them walking on the dirty ground, trying to lick it. But then you go to the other side of it, he uses that for rip roaring around. That's a tough one for me.
Yeah. So can you like get like a puppy declawed but not tail docked?
Yeah, yep. Yep. Now lots of vets refuse to do ear cropping. There was like 7 vets in my clinic and only 1 would do it. So there's not many vets that choose to do ear cropping. Tail docking and declaw, a lot of them are more okay with doing declaws. Some of them are probably wishy-washy on tail docking at this point.
Now, what was their reasons for not wanting to ear crop? Just because it was just for the owners?
Looks, yeah.
So they just don't see it as ethical?
Yep. Yep. All right. So you're gonna have 1 paragraph for each thing. Don't write me a novel, just a paragraph is fine, okay? I just wanna see that you're reflecting on these things. Today is Thursday. You guys and the folks at home, how about we just have this due Wednesday by midnight, because if you need to work on it some Wednesday, you can do that, since we're not here. So Wednesday the 28th at midnight. Okay? And you guys at home, if you have a question that I didn't really answer, just reach out.